David R. here. Today I'm going to talk to you about this book, Saved by the Light, by Dannion Brinkley with Paul Perry. In 1975, Dannion was talking on the phone, and lightning struck. A surge of electricity went through the receiver and struck him. He was knocked off his feet, and soon after, he died. And when he died, he said that a tunnel, like a dark tunnel, came to him. Now, most of the time, people have to walk down this tunnel, and at the end of that tunnel is a light, but he didn't have to. And at the end of this tunnel was a light, and there was a spiritual being, and this spiritual being, or being of light, as he calls it, gave him a life review. And in this life review, Dannion got to see all the bad things he did to people throughout his life, which were numerous. He was a bully when he was a kid. He went into the service and gladly killed Vietnamese during the Vietnam War. And he even worked on special missions, and in one of those missions he helped blow up a hotel that had 50 people in it, and supposedly all of these people were guilty of being against the U.S. government. But I wonder though, there had to have been some innocent people in there, don't you think? Well, anyway, these were some bad feelings that came over him, because he could feel all of their pain, all of the confusion as to, why did I die? Why did this person kill me? Or whatever, what they were thinking after they died. And he felt all of this pain. It was pretty bad. So after the life review, he and this being of light, this spiritual being, floated and traveled. They traveled all over the place. And eventually they made it to this cathedral city, or city of cathedrals. And while there, Dannion went into one. And inside this cathedral, there were 13 beings of light. And they had a total of 12 boxes. Now, in these boxes, they showed Dannion the future. I'll just name a few. In one of the boxes, he could see the fall of the Soviet Union. In another box, he could see the U.S. economy crashing by the year 2000. Another one, he saw the Gulf War. And another one, he saw the Antichrist, you see. And after this was done, he was told by the spirit being, the one he originally came with, was that he had to create these centers, these stress reduction centers, because the world depended on this. Reducing stress is very important to us humans, and also spiritual growth is as well. But Dannion was advised to create these stress centers. And in these stress centers, there would be a biofeedback room, there would be a massage room, a music room, a room for people to express their psychic abilities. So, anyway, after that, Dannion was sent back to Earth into his body. Now, his body was on its way to the morgue. He had been dead for a while. And he couldn't move, he couldn't speak, so he blew on the sheet that was over his old body. And then one of the orderlies who was transporting his body said, "He's alive, he's alive." And so they eventually put him in his room, and and he was on his way to recovery. Now, while recovering, he was in a lot of pain. But when he would go to sleep, he said that he would go back to the spiritual place and learn about all sorts of things in order to create these centers. I was thinking, though, I thought he had to die before he went to the spiritual place. But according to him, he could go there all the time, well, at least while he's sleeping. He could go and they would instruct him on things. But I thought the whole purpose of this was to die, then go to the spiritual place, and then come back, live to tell about it. But apparently that wasn't the case. So he spent some time in the hospital, and when he got out of the hospital, eventually he loses everything due to medical bills. He had to sell off his old cars, sell his house, possessions. Eventually he even loses his wife because she can't handle it anymore. And it was probably tough living with him. He had a lot of blackouts. For instance, let's say he's in the yard and he blacks out and he lays in a chair or on the ground for 6 hours. And then once his wife got home, she would pick him up, take him in the house. Also, he had a hard time going to the bathroom, like walking to the bathroom. So he would like wet himself or worse. And, these are things that people had to deal with when it came to him. But also his nonstop talk about the near-death experience. He kept telling people he had to build those centers and told them about the spirit being and all sorts of things. Told them about the future. And it was driving people crazy. So crazy that somebody had mentioned, like, if it's so great there, why don't you just commit suicide? And now, he had kind of thought about that. But he saw in a newspaper that a guy named Raymond Moody was going to be speaking at the University of South Carolina. Raymond wrote this book here, Life After Life. As you can see, I'm still reading it, but I'll be done with it soon. And in that book, Raymond mentions there are several elements to a near-death experience that a person goes through, and those are actually mentioned in this book here. The first one is a sense of being dead. The second one, feelings of peace and peacefulness, like completely calm. 3, an out-of-body experience where a person floats or hovers above their body. 4, a tunnel experience where they would walk down this dark tunnel, and at the end of that tunnel was a light. 5 is seeing people of light, like dead relatives. Now, Dannion didn't see any dead relatives because nobody had died yet. So everybody was still around. 6 is being greeted by a being of light or a spiritual guide of some kind. 7 is a life review where your life flashes before your eyes and you see everything that happened, both good and bad. 8 is a reluctance to return. Think about it. Who would want to return? If you're in heaven, why would you want to come back down to earth? 9 is a personality transformation. Dannion had a major personality transformation. He believed that he could read minds. He believed that he could see into the future. He could touch somebody's hand and observe their life as if it were a home movie, he said. And some people got angered by this, and others thought it was interesting. Now, after meeting Raymond Moody, Raymond interviewed him for like 8 hours or more, and eventually he came to work with Raymond. And he got to meet a lot of people who had near-death experiences, which was interesting for him. And then eventually, Dannion got his life in order. He created some businesses, but since 30% of his heart was damaged due to the lightning strike, he had to get surgery. Now, this time he had to be talked into this because he didn't really want it. He wanted to die. But relatives and even Raymond Moody had said, hey, just get the surgery. We need you around. And so while he was getting the surgery, he died again and went back to the spiritual realm. And while there, he got another life review. Now, the first part of his life was pretty bad. Again, he saw that. But then the last 14 years of his life was really good. He was a hospice volunteer, and he helped homeless people. He changed his life completely, did really good things for people. And that showed up in the second life review. Now, I have some questions about this book. Why is there no hell? Bad people do a lot of bad things. Should they just get off easy? Like the Adolf Hitlers of the world. Supposedly Hitler committed suicide. I don't know, there's some speculation on that. But let's say he did. Did he go to this spiritual place, this heavenly place, and get to enjoy all the wonders of it all? I don't know. It kind of makes me wonder. And another thing, like I said earlier, did Dannion just get to go to heaven at will? Or whenever he was sleeping, he would just go up into heaven, come back? I thought he had to die first. That's what I thought this whole book was about. Dying, going into the spiritual place, and then coming back. But if he was just sleeping and would go there, it kind of defeats the whole purpose of this book, to be honest. So anyway, there's some things in here that I believe, and some things I don't. So that's all I got anyway. All right, bye.